They got there. And so a lot of respect for them. Great coaching staff with Coach Burrows, Coach Gaspard, and Cooper Fouts. I mean, that's as good a threesome as you'll probably find. So they'll be prepared, be a great environment, and we're really looking forward to it.
I know every coach has different, road philosophies and stuff. What are kind of the key points that you like to tell your team when preparing for a road game?
Yeah, I mean, we want to develop a sound routine as far as preparing and try to make it as much like a home game as we possibly can. We're going to practice there tomorrow at 10 in the morning, much like we would do with the early work situation here. Do all of our video stuff the same way that we do it. You're just doing it in a hotel instead of, in our video room here. So looking forward to it. I think it'll be good for this team to get together and move out. This will be the first time we've played outside the stadium here. So looking forward to that. And I think it also will be a good environment and will kind of be similar to ones we'll play in later on, at least in terms of the interest in the game from the home team fan side of it. And so it's going to be a great night for college baseball.
Is there anything you've learned about your team that you didn't know before this first series?
Hard to say. I think sometimes when the uniform goes on and there's fans in the stadium and, there's consequence in terms of your performance and your at-bats, some guys respond differently, both positive and negative. On our side of it, there was way more positive to that. And so that's good. As a coach, you'd way rather have it that way. I mean, I'm pretty demanding. I want them to be on it all the time. But I was pleased to see the response to competition. There's always going to be things that I'm going to believe that we need to get better at. Like, we lined up to the wrong base on a relay on Sunday when we're up 11-0, and small things like that. Like, the saying is we're not going to accept in winning what we wouldn't accept in losing. So there was a few things throughout the weekend that we'll clean up, but they're very fixable.
How do you like to approach the midweek games? Is it a continuation of?
Yeah, it's the most important game of the season, and I don't differentiate between that for a number of reasons. I think if you're trying to create self-discipline and focusing on the task at hand, well, the task at hand is this game. And, the other part is, when you look at external factors, the RPI doesn't differentiate between conference and non-conference. I mean, this is a team we're going to play. It's going to win 40-plus games, probably, be a conference champion type team, and top 25 team, chance to host a regional, which they did last year. So it's a great opportunity in that regard.
Have you given thought to the starting pitcher?
Yes, we have. We're not ready to announce it yet, but in that same light, I mean, we're gonna have some of our better guys ready to go.
Do you know who Louisiana Tech might be?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of have an idea, but I don't know.
Burrows made a point to say he appreciated that you kept this game on the schedule. Could have come in and change some things around. What do you feel like went into that decision? I mean, do you want to take LSU around the state so that kids see your program? Did you want to do it for him? Or?
I really respect Lane. He came and played us at Arizona when he was at Northwestern State. Really good team. I think they might have won their league that year at 35, 38 wins, something like that. And they beat us, and they might have been the only non-conference home game we lost that year. I mean, we played for the national championship. And you could just tell there was a toughness, a grit about it. I also remember when I was at San Diego, he was at Mississippi State, and seeing him on the road recruiting, definite hustler, worker, that type of deal. And then ironically, we played that Mississippi State team in the Super Regional, and he'd recruited a lot of those guys, and there was like 17 guys that were like 92 or better on the pitching staff. So he knows what he's doing. But really, I mean, it's always about what's best for us. And on so many levels, this game is so good for us. I haven't really thought about, future scheduling. To be honest with you, we didn't even finish up next year's schedule until like a couple weeks ago, which we have some really, cool opponents on there. But I think it's just a good opportunity for us to play a good team in a very good environment, and they're one of the best teams on our schedule, in my opinion. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Cade Doty was named the SEC Player of the Week, and you've kind of talked about how he's the best player people don't talk about. Why do you think that maybe is?
I don't know. For me, it's hard to miss. And I mean, all he's done is hit line drives, make great plays, be a smart base runner, and work hard every day and set a good example for his teammates. So I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Any moves to the lineup or fielding?
I mean, it's hard to say without maybe knowing who we're facing or that kind of thing. I think, for me, it always goes back to the play and the types of at-bats that we take. And I felt like once we settled into the game Friday, it was pretty consistent in that regard, and kind of just want teams to feel like we just kind of keep coming. And that can be with a number of different guys. So, I mean, maybe I'm a little like, don't want to talk about it a ton because there's so many guys that I think can make a positive contribution. So waiting as long as we can to figure out what's best, I think has always worked good for me, and we'll probably continue to do that. I mean, there's not a lot of drama, I guess, with some of the main ones, that we've talked about. But I think this weekend was a good indication that there's a lot of guys that can do a lot of things really well. I mean, there's some guys that maybe I didn't even anticipate playing at all, that when they were standing up there, I'm like, I like how that looks, and I like where this guy's headed as a player.
Jay, obviously, it's great when you score all these runs and set a school record and all that stuff. Are you still, do you want to see, is there still some things you want to find out about your team, like going on the road?
Oh yeah,
Situation?
100%. Yeah, I mean,
Better competition?
yeah, the best. I tell our players this all the time. But, the best coach you're ever gonna have in your life is playing time and experience. And this is a really good experience. I mean, they have real pitching. They have veteran hitters. It's a chance to go on the road. And, just like, learning what our response would be in a real game with fans here, opening night, and having to handle all that, this is a new layer of that. Coming back here this weekend where it's not new anymore, that's another level of discipline. So I think it's just trying to be consistent in mindset and how we approach things. And I have good thoughts about how we'll do those things, but, I'm anxious to see. And one way or the other, it's going to show us kind of where we need to go next. And, we're addressing some things in practice today that we want to be better at. And Wednesday will be another test to expose us a little bit, both good and bad, and we'll use those going forward.
You talked this weekend about Jack Merrifield and how he'll probably see a good role on this team. What have you seen out of him, and how did he earn that kind of starting spot on Sunday and Saturday at third base?
He's just a winning type player. I trust him. I mean, it was 2-0 in the fifth inning on Friday night, and it was cold. Didn't really think the ball was going to travel all that much. And so I thought, runs might be at a premium. And so I think he's a terrific defender at third base. And then he just takes quality at bats and moves the offense and has an understanding of the game and, what we want out of his at bats. And so he executed that really well on Saturday. And then, I felt like Sunday was just one of those things where it's like, the way he played Saturday, like you want to reward that and be in there Sunday. So I was pleased with Jack this weekend and not surprised at all.
Did Jacob share any thoughts about the change of environment with you?
Not really. I mean, I think all of our guys, and again, last year was not normal. I mean, and we could speak to it too. I mean, having no fans, and then as you get to the end of the season, you kind of have half capacity, and then you're in a regional and super regional with, 8,000 fans or whatever. It's new for all our players. I think maybe it was the Alabama series last year. It looked like was full, and looking back at some video, but the players have commented a lot like they didn't really have that. So I think it was new for everybody, and I thought they handled that well. I mean, the most impressive thing I thought about the weekend was Saturday, day game, non-conference opponent, and I just kind of turned my head looking down the right field line, and I was like, sweet, kind of looks just like last night. And so tip of the hat to the fans for being out here, and I hope that they are consistent with that effort.
The fielding, obviously, might be the only sour note from the weekend. Is that what you talked about, addressing things?
It depends on how you frame it. For me, I think, like I said, the mistakes that we made defensively were a byproduct of guys trying to do too much or force plays that were not there. And that's correctable. Once you show it to them, they see what that looks like, they learn from it, and then I'm not concerned about that at all. I think on the flip side, there were some really good plays. I thought they communicated, very well. And, as we get to learn our pitchers better, how to position guys, for each pitcher that we have, along with, the tendency of the other hitter, I think we'll get better and better at that. But I thought for the most part it was positive. Mentioning Jack, I thought he played really good at third base. Jordan has been really good since he came back. When you put Cade at second, you feel good about that. Trey didn't make a play on that ball that was hit hard at him. I don't know if that was a hit or an error, but, you feel good about him. I think Dylan's getting better every day in center, and thought we caught well, and so feel pretty good about all that.
You said a few minutes ago about there were some players that you didn't expect to get as much playing time, and they did this weekend and impressed you. Who were some of those guys?
Yeah, I think it's a number of them. I think, off of the, guys that started, not or excluding those guys, I think Josh Stevenson has been better since he came back and is a really good athlete, has played really good defense in the outfield. I think he's not near the player he's going to be. You can kind of start to see it come a little bit. Collier Cranford's improved a lot since the fall, and feel good about him defensively, but has made some adjustments with his swing. So they're guys that are maybe a little bit behind right now, but that's only because we have really good players, and so we're got to keep chipping away and making sure those guys are prepared, so when their number is called that they're ready to go and there's no drop off. I think that's what I like is, you could kind of go down that list and I could keep talking about guys, and if you put any one of those guys in with the main group of guys, we shouldn't drop off that much, and doesn't always go that way. So I think that's a good thing for our team.
The catchers at the plate, we saw the product is 2 for 11. Do they actually have quality at bats, or what did you see?
Yeah, 100%. Alex hit a ball to the middle with a runner on third and less than 2 outs and got him in. He made contact with 2 strikes on Friday night and picked up an RBI. Tyler hit a double. He got hit with a couple pitches. So for me, batting average is important, obviously, because it leads to, if it's up, your on base is up, and can't score runs unless you're on base. But I think if you take a little deeper dive into it, the productivity of those at bats, contributed to winning. And not everybody is Dylan Cruz, and I don't expect them to be. And especially at that position, the defensive contribution is probably more important than the offensive contribution. And I thought they both or all three were fine there. And I think it was good, and I think it'll continue to get better.
We all know that Cade Beloso is out for a while, but how is the overall health of this team? I noticed Drew Bianco went in the game. He had a hamstring problem, I think, last week or something.
Yeah, that one, his hamstrings are tricky. It's like he can play, but we don't want him to regress by tweaking it any further. Felt like he was in a much better place Sunday than he was on Friday or Saturday. Tried to kind of limit, his involvement with it. Had very clear instructions, like, we better run full speed on the bases all the time. But this was an exception of like, hey man, like, you hit a ground ball to short, like, you need to dial it back a little bit. So I'm happy that he's progressing, and we just want to kind of keep him going in that mode.
Is surgery on the table for Cade, or do you guys still not know?
Still don't know yet. I think there's a few things that to be determined. It's swollen pretty good, and so to even remotely think about going there, like, we have to see kind of what happens with the swelling first.
What options does he have? Can he come back for another year?
He could, yeah, he could anyways. Matter of fact, in December, I was really pleased with his improvement in the fall. I thought it was a true story, or one of the stories of the fall for me, maybe where I had him in my mind based on the results of last year. There's a big gap in how much he improved. And I actually mentioned to him in November, December, like, hey, hopefully you get a chance to get drafted or play professional baseball. If you don't, we'd love to have you here next year. And I think that's something Coach Maneri did a really good job of. They did a great job of keeping those 4th or 5th year guys. And that's something, if they're not a 1st, 2nd, 3rd round, 4th round draft pick, we want to do a good job of that also.